了之了，而觉得众生没有知道这个法非常的可怜，这样一个法而生的悲心。圆无所缘而生的悲心呢，就是圆空性，就是我了悟空性的，但是呢，在空性中我自然而然对众生生起的悲悯心，无缘和所缘而生的悲心。他了悟的这个心中的一个义理，然后呢，他自然而然对众生有现出来这种悲悯的一种心怀，就是对众生的具有各种各样的一种痛苦，各种各样的一个烦恼，他自然而然的涌出一种对他一种悲悯的一种心怀，这样的一种所缘而说在升起菩提心的这个因素呢，有什么呢？就是呢，第一个要升起菩提心的话，第一个呢要具有分别解脱戒。
There's a discussion on whether or not bodhicitta and compassion is the same, and this nun's opinion is that they are not the same because. She's quoting from the Gongjik, Jigten Sumgon's text. So that is, first of all, there is those individuals who have already habituated to compassion in their previous lives, and having habituated to compassion in previous lives, then also now in this life they possess a natural tendency to be compassionate, and because this imprint is awakened, and so then often we call them loosely a bodhisattva, but it actually is that they have habituated to compassion in a previous life. So then another text says, so for this reason there are some texts actually, in fact not the Gongjik, but other texts, so in the Gongjik it says that some other texts say that for this reason we can say that compassion and bodhicitta are the same. Other texts also say that they are the same. For example, they say that there's emptiness. Emptiness has actually compassion at its core. And the core of emptiness is the Buddha nature that all sentient beings possess. And so the nature of compassion is bodhicitta. So this is others' opinion. But then the argument being made here is that there is actually a difference between bodhicitta and compassion. And that is because it is explained in different... and so in this other text it says that in order to cultivate bodhicitta it is necessary to develop compassion. So in that sense they are not exactly the same, and that is because one leads to the other, and that is proven through the 4 reasons. That is the authentic words of the Buddha. That is the Buddha has mentioned that through various forms of logic in the scriptures. Then also it is proven through the words of Jigten Sumgon's root guru Pamudrupa, and also actually through Jigten Sumgon's own experience, and that he actually explains in the 5-fold path of Mahamudra, where he says that unless the horse of compassion runs for the benefit of others, you will not be rewarded by the gods and the goddesses, or the humans and gods, and therefore you should apply yourself in the preliminaries, the preliminary being compassion. And so that also shows that they are distinct. And another is that another way to prove that compassion and bodhicitta are distinct is in terms of their cause, in terms of causes, and in terms of function. So in terms of causes, bodhicitta requires the cause of compassion, and so for example, in the middle way view, it is said that how have the Buddhas attained enlightenment? The fully enlightened Buddhas have attained enlightenment through bodhicitta, and how have they cultivated bodhicitta? It is through compassion, and so therefore bodhicitta requires a cause, which is compassion. And then they're also different in terms of their function, their essence, because the function or the essence of compassion is a wish to free sentient beings from suffering. And the essence of bodhicitta is a wish to establish all sentient beings in the state of enlightenment. So the intention is not the same. And so then also it can be explained in terms of the sutra path. There's, for example, the Shravakas, Pratyekas, and Arhats who also have compassion. It's not like they're completely merciless, but still that compassion is not bodhicitta because they are on the lower vehicles. So therefore, they do not have the wish to establish all beings in a state of enlightenment, but they do have compassion. And even ordinary beings who are afflicted with attachment, aversion, and ignorance still have compassion, but we cannot call that bodhicitta. So then also, Jigten Sumgon had said that if compassion is equivalent with bodhicitta, then also an arhat must be called a bodhisattva, but an arhat is not called a bodhisattva, it's called an arhat, because there's a difference in intention, but the arhat still has compassion, he just doesn't have bodhicitta. And in fact, even sinful beings or even animals like wolves and raven, they have compassion to some extent, but we cannot call that bodhicitta, because bodhicitta is the wish to establish sentient beings in enlightenment. And so then, however, even though we say that compassion and bodhicitta are not the same, they are also not entirely different. They have a relation. They are like one continuum. So one leads to the other. So in their essential nature, they still are the same. But now, when one attains the path of seeing, then that compassion becomes unobjectified compassion, and that compassion then has a non-distinct nature with bodhicitta. It leads to bodhicitta. It is just like planting a seed into a field. The seed is compassion, and then the cultivation of compassion is like pouring water and fertilizer into the seed, and in the end the fruit will ripen. So it is like one continuum, not completely unrelated. And then there is two kinds of compassion. There is a compassion that has sentient beings as an object, and then there is compassion that has phenomena as an object. And so the compassion that has sentient beings as an object sees that sentient beings experience suffering, and it wants sentient beings to be free from suffering, if they would only realize that their true nature is selfless, that a self does not exist. And then the compassion that has a phenomena as an object is that, again, one sees that sentient beings suffer because they do not realize the impermanent and empty nature of other phenomena, and actually they are empty. So one wishes then to be free from the dualistic grasping of self and others. So a person who has realized that develops such an unobjectified compassion that wishes to separate sentient beings from suffering on the ultimate level. Also in the Gongchik, Jigten Sumgon says that the basis for developing bodhicitta is the bodhisattva vow, and the basis of the bodhisattva vow is the individual liberation or the pratimoksha vows. And so therefore, this also shows that the lower vehicles and the higher vehicles are not completely unrelated, because one becomes the basis of the other. But even though they are related in the sense of that they are one continuum, one leading to the other, in their actual nature and how they manifest, they are not entirely the same. So they cannot be called equivalent, but must be called distinct. So that is now the view that is being debated about. Yes, basically the monks debating, they are arguing for the point that, according to Jigten Sumgon, that bodhicitta and compassion are separate, are distinct, and that is challenged by the monks on the stage. For example, just now they said that, since we talk about it from the ultimate level and the relative level, there seems to be a distinction, but don't we also say that there is that the ultimate and the relative actually are indivisible? So then if they're indivisible, then also compassion and bodhicitta must be indivisible.
And
that.
the nuns prior to that also did.
But this is the topic.
probably
No, no, not
coming
coming.
this time.
Tomorrow 5 o'clock is the hours, and then
5
we don't
o'clock?
need to come, but we come at 2 o'clock.
We come at 1, not at 2.
So 1 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you so much, Martina.
I'm going to get something to finish off. It's okay.
Everything is good. We have
need
water
something
for
right
3
now.
days. We have enough water for 3 days.
I need something right now.
Thank you. She can hardly walk anymore.
Okay.
Hello bác Chi. Vui không bác Chi, nghe đi bếp vui không?
Đang mua vé rồi, mua vé xong rồi. Mà
Mua vé đi đâu?
đi vô
So next program, we are going to start at 7:30, 7:30 p.m. So the second program is today, and the dharma is by the mountain which is Papa Saturday. Jigten